You're tired of working day in and day out, trying to find new customers, chasing leads, doing whatever work comes your way, and never getting to earn what you're worth. You do it because you love the work, and you're passionate about serving older customers and their families. We get it. But what you need is more of the right customers for your business, and more income for you and your family, so you can grow and help more people in your community. Well, you're in the right place, because this is Booming Your Bottom Line.
Hi, this is Mark Hager, and you're listening to episode 70 of Booming Your Bottom Line. Today, we're bringing you a brand new owner's chat with Tema Frank. Tema is a best-selling author, international speaker, and consultant with over 3 decades experience in business and marketing strategy, usability testing, and customer experience improvement. And in 2001, she launched Web Mystery Shoppers, Inc., one of the world's first usability testing companies to do large sample size remote usability testing of websites and web-related customer experience. And in 2012, she created the Frank Online Marketing Show, which has now become the Frank Reactions podcast, and extended her digital and customer experience consulting, speaking, and teaching services. She's also author of the best-selling book, Canada's Best Employers for Women, a guide for job hunters, employees, and employers, and is currently working on her second book, People Shock, Why People Matter More Than Ever in the Digital Era and How That Changes Business. Tema has lived in several Canadian cities as well as in the Netherlands, France, and Mexico. Tema, it's so good to talk with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, really appreciate all the business owners that give us a chunk of their time so they can educate our listeners. So, Tema, we talked about this before we started, but while we're here, we're focused on today giving our listeners some great information about the aging boomer market and kind of through your eyes, your mission, perspective, and your insight as a thought leader and a business owner. So our show is strictly about helping that small business owner, providing insight and background so they can be inspired and learn from you while we chat here today. We're all about encouraging them in their pursuit of that small business dream while helping boomers and their families in the year ahead and years ahead. Tema, you okay with that?
Absolutely. I think it's a great mandate you've got there because Lord knows it's important.
Amen. Happens whether we'll admit it or not, right?
Yeah, I finally gave up and let my hair go gray. So.
All right. See, at least you're accepting.
Yeah.
Let's start with, let's make this whole thing kind of about customer experience. That's your wheelhouse. So
absolutely.
Tell us from your point of view why it should matter to small business owners.
Customer experience is hugely important. And frankly, right now in the digital era, customer experience has become the one thing that can be your competitive advantage. So you can't compete for long against Amazon on price. You can't compete against them for more than a few minutes, frankly. You're not going to be able to beat, again, I call this the Amazon effect. You're not going to be able to beat them in terms of a lot of what they offer, in terms of variety, in terms of often even in terms of delivery and speed of responding. So the only way that you really can compete sustainably is by offering really fantastic and consistent customer service.
Right on. Well, we're definitely in line with you. We've talked about this a lot with our clients and customers as well as the people that listen to the podcast. So let's talk about what is maybe some of the early warning signs that a small business owner might have that they're experiencing a problem with customer experience?
For sure. Well, first, there are the obvious ones like declining sales, increasing customer complaints. Those things are pretty straightforward. But there are other things that are likely sort of hidden indicators that you might have some problems. So, for instance, for one thing, if nobody's actually monitoring any potential mentions of you on social media, then there's a risk that people are saying questionable things about you and you don't even know about it and aren't responding. In terms of direct stuff going on within your organization, if you find that your staff are bickering a lot, that's going to affect your customers. If you've got unhappy staff, they're not going to be delivering great support to your customers.
Oh, yeah.
If you find things like invoices aren't getting out on time, or you're not paying your own bills on time, again, all of those things will affect the relationships you have with people outside your company, and that's going to ultimately affect the customer experience.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Quick sidebar question, or maybe we should do this at the end. You tell me, but there's these things online nowadays called, where it's reputation protection.
Hmm.
Is there any validity to those? Have they figured it out right yet, or are they just collecting subscriptions on the month? And go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there are times when those services might be helpful. I would say for small business owners, and as I understand that's most of your audience, it's better that you take charge of it yourself. It's better that you learn at least the basics about how the web works, how social media works, and then just be involved enough that you can maintain a good reputation. And a lot of that does ultimately mean being a little bit proactive, building some relationships with people online so that if someone starts to badmouth you, you've got your defenders right there already.
Yeah.
For sure.
That makes good sense.
And, Mark and I talk about just, living a life where if somebody decided to trash talk you, no one else would believe it anyway, right? I mean, that's
Exactly.
just be that person that you would know you're okay. So
Exactly.
what's the number one mistake that small businesses make when it comes to customer experience, whether they know it or not?
I would say the biggest mistake is not even thinking about it, not listening to their customers,
Yeah.
not finding out what their customers really think. There's this tendency in a lot of small businesses, we get very focused on getting that next customer, and we forget about how well are we serving those that we've actually got. And if you're not serving them well, the whole house of cards will ultimately collapse.
No, that's a really good point. And I know, Mark and I talk a lot as accountability partners in business, and my father has owned and sold more than one business, and
Hmm.
he reminds me probably quarterly that satisfied existing customers, right? Because you can get in a rhythm, right, of the sales part and the going and getting, and that is one of your highest and best uses as the CEO,
Yeah.
is the relationship and the sale. But in-house, if they're not being taken care of, that word of mouth can ruin and well outweigh everything you're doing on the front end for your funnel. So go ahead,
And
Mark.
even more so now than in your father's era, because now there's social media. So if people are upset, it can spread far and wide a lot faster.
Mm-hmm. Well,
But the
that
flip side is it can too if they're happy.
Yes.
exactly. Well, and we're talking about the baby boomers here, and they love to refer,
Hmm.
but they also have no problem whatsoever, you know, talking about a negative experience and
Yep.
spreading that as well.
Yep.
So it's very important. So, what kind of things can a business owner do to improve their customers' experience?
Well, I would say start with just getting out there and talking to some of your customers about what they've been feeling, what they've been experiencing, what they think you could do better.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the nature of your business, if it's retail, let's say, just make sure that you, as the owner, spend some time in the stores seeing how people react or interact with customers, or if necessary, hire somebody to do some mystery shopping for you. Just remember, if you do that, though, don't bombard them with so many questions that it'll be obvious to your staff that they're
Right.
mystery shoppers.
Right.
So listening and observing, I think, are the most important things you can do.
We have a lot of people in our audience that are work in the home, provide
Yep.
services in the home, whether they're remodelers or therapists or things like that. And we've counseled several of our customers in the way they need to go about, getting this feedback. And just to echo what you said, getting that face-to-face time with those customers, even if it is at their house when you're performing the service or just after
Yep.
you perform the service, and knowing what you're going to say, knowing what the goal is when you're going there
Yeah.
to talk to them, what you want to get out of it, even if it hurts, because that's the only way to get usable information.
Yeah, I actually just had a great example of that yesterday. I was interviewing somebody from Miele, which is this high-end kitchen appliances manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
And they realized that the actual installation experience is when the customers are in contact with them and their company. And so because these were high-end products, they actually train all their installers on how to cook gourmet food so that
Wow,
when they're in the house installing, they can have a knowledgeable conversation with the person whose house they're in.
that is awesome.
Isn't that cool? I
Yeah, that
thought
is
that was
very
pretty
cool.
neat. Yeah.
That's really smart. Wow. So, you mentioned people on site, right? Your staff out in the field interacting with customers. Um, how can someone inspire their staff with your vision and your mission as the owner of the company if the work they do isn't earth shattering? I don't know, if we make grab bars but we don't do the install, or right, I mean, making widgets doesn't solve world hunger. How do you get somebody on board with your mission when that might be the case?
Well, in a lot of cases, your mission can be tied to something really important. So if you're making grab bars, you're preventing injuries.
Mm.
And so I think of there was a company I interviewed a while ago called All Weather Windows. And so they manufacture windows. But one of the things that they would do is they would actually put up pictures of some of the families, because they did a Habitat for Humanity build once a year. So they'd put up a picture of that family on the production line so that even production staff were constantly reminded of, we're doing something really important. We're helping people get shelter.
That's great.
Yeah, so try to tie it somehow in some way to something that will motivate people. And then also try to hire people who really can see the exciting aspects of what they're doing.
Well, you've actually just touched on something right there that is so important, and that is hiring the right people. You can. I've been a hiring manager. Well, I was a hiring manager for most of my career, and I can tell you that you know you can hire for skills, or you can hire for attitude and teach the skills.
Absolutely.
And getting and finding the people that are in line with your values as an owner and as a company, right? And somebody who's going to warm up to the mission that you have to make a difference, and in this case, our audience, make a difference in people's lives in your community. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of times this could be life or death. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
but people who fall in line with that, I mean, that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So
For sure.
Yeah.
all right, so in terms of building a good customer experience, there's tons of things that you could do, but before maybe this is a two-part question. First, let's talk about maybe some easy things that a business owner could do to tweak their customer experience, and then maybe talk a little bit about what's the real return on an investment if you really get serious about it.
Okay, so I would say in terms of easy things, first of all, just make sure something as simple as how you're answering the phone. Make sure that it's polite, friendly, clearly enunciated.
Mm-hmm.
Just make it warm and welcoming when people call. I think that's a big first step. And then make sure you've got some kind of process in place to ensure that every call is followed up on. Because I think in a lot of really busy small businesses, things
Mm-hmm.
fall between the cracks.
Oh, yes.
So I would say that's also a really, really important thing that you can do that shouldn't be that hard if you actually just put a little effort into developing a process and making sure that it happens.
Mm-hmm.
So those are two simple things I think you could start with.
Excellent. So what about an ROI? Let's say they're going to invest in really getting their people up to speed, and what could they look at as a possible return?
The return on investment, I can't give hard numbers because it depends on the type of business,
Mm-hmm.
but I can tell you that it's very positive because the great thing is if you do, I mean, in my book, People Shock, I talk about the 3 Ps, which are promise, people, and process. So you've already alluded to the vision and getting a promise that's compelling in there. The second P is people, which is, of course, both your customers and inside your staff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're getting the people part right, 2 things are going to happen there. One is you're going to have a lower staff turnover rate, which will cut your costs. People underestimate how much it costs to hire new and train again. So you'll lower exactly. So you'll lower your turnover rate, and you'll also increase the amount of referrals you get. So
Mm-hmm.
your sales costs will go down, or your volumes will go up, or both, right? So those 2 things will really create great ROI. And the third P that I talk about is process, which is really what you need to deliver properly on the promise, and with the people. So they all tie together.
Right. And I think it's unfair to, have one lunch and learn and assume that everybody got it the way you got it as the owner
Right.
with the vision. I think, and let's just talk ROI for a second. A sellable business is only as sellable as how it runs without you. And so you're really referring to scripts and systems. And that is a
Yeah.
great way, the handbook, right, that we can go back to and say, oh, okay, we did that wrong. Should we learn from that? Or,
Yeah.
oh, you've done it wrong 3 times. I guess you're not a good fit for the company because I keep asking the same question. Or,
Right.
right? Yeah. So yes, and training new people is absolutely expensive. Retraining, starting over, learning curves,
Yeah.
and the part I'm going to argue as an owner that nobody does the math well enough on is interruption, meaning your time, my time unbillable because there's questions coming at me and it interrupts your thought process. It takes like 15 minutes to get back on track every time you're interrupted. So
Yeah. And that
get
goes for
interrupted.
email too, right? That's a huge interruption if you let it ping you all the time. So I don't do that anymore. I check my email a few times a day, but not constantly.
Yeah, there's a lot of great recommendations that I'm sure you can provide about, time management too, right? But, it's all intertwined. But to overlook something as significant as customer experience it's protecting your brand, right? It's the baby you
Yeah,
built.
absolutely.
And the minute you
Absolutely.
start handing that to other people, it's like babysitting. That first time you went on a date after you had a kid, yeah, you probably had a horrible time because you're worried about, oh, yeah,
Yep.
someone's,
And all you talk about is the kid,
and all you
Yep.
talk about is good. Yeah, but yeah, not exactly. You learn over time to get away and really enjoy getting away. But um, yeah, it's so similar. It's ironic as Mark and I are both parents. I don't know if you are.
I am.
You are, yeah, so similar. So what's on the horizon for you guys that's exciting? What are you doing to, be nimble and grow and change and keep meeting the needs of your customers?
Well, the most exciting thing on the horizon, of course, is the release of PeopleShock. And that should be available by mid-May, I'm hoping. And actually, if people are interested in it, they can already get a free chapter. Just go to peopleshock.com.
Excellent.
So that's my big excitement right now, and I'm really hoping and seeing indications that that will lead to more opportunities for me to spread this message through speaking, through consulting. Um, that's really what I want to do. I mean, I want to help make the world a better place for the people in it, which means customers, employees, and everybody else. And if you focus on customers and customer experience, you're going to make it a better place for everybody.
Well, and I know this is totally off the wall, but the thing about customer experience and the thing about aligning your business and your people, your employees getting aligned, when that alignment happens, everybody's happier.
Of course. Of course.
You going to work is, I mean, who likes to work really, but you at least get to feel like you're going and you're doing something either important or that you enjoy or with people that you like to be around, and you're making a difference. And as an owner, there's less stress, and as a customer, it's a joy to do business with people because they're in your head and they know what you need and what you want and they're there for you. I mean,
Yeah.
it just works for everybody.
Yeah. Well, and one other thing that I think is really important, and it's something that's often missed by small businesses, is the value you can get from your other staff. If you're the CEO, staff at all levels, your frontline staff, you
Mm-hmm.
want to encourage them to be making suggestions for improvement all the time. And you also want to make sure that you don't come down too hard on somebody for making a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, if they do it over and over, that's a different story. But you want people to be comfortable that they know your organization and its values well enough that if they need to make a spur of the moment decision, they can.
It's safe.
And yeah, that it's safe to do so.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely agree. That's great stuff. Really good stuff. Now, if you could offer one piece of advice for small business owners, what's the best thing that they could know that you could tell them?
Well, I think in a way I've already said it, which is listen. Listen to your staff, listen to your customers, listen to the whole wide world about what's going on out there, listen to your competitors. What are they saying and what are they doing? It's really all about listening.
Absolutely. That's great.
Amen. That's where it starts. It's funny. Our podcast last week was called Arrogance Plus Ignorance is a Small Business Stalemate. Right? And the ignorance wasn't about being stupid. It's about not paying enough attention.
Yeah.
Right? That term. Well, beautiful stuff. And obviously, I love the fact that it came right off your tongue. You just rolled out what your own mission statement really is. And you've got that down to the 30-second version, and clearly it's well done. Tema, it's been a blessing. It's been fantastic to have you here. I really appreciate your leadership and your willingness to step forward and be a voice for positive change for small businesses across our continent. Before you get out of here, do tell us one more time, give us a couple websites, phone numbers, best place to find the book.
Absolutely. Thank you for that opportunity. So the book, go to peopleshock.com, and there you can sign up and get a copy of the first chapter and the introduction free, and you'll be among the first to know when the book actually goes on sale. And there will be some other bonuses and stuff too. And if you happen to be in Edmonton, Alberta, you can come to the launch party. Who knows? If enough people sign up in other towns, I may hold some mini launch parties there too. So that's one thing. You may also find the Frank Reactions podcast of interest, because we talk a lot about these issues of customer experience and user experience and management of business and leadership generally. So I think that may well be of interest to people. And you can find that the same places you find any other podcast, or you can find it on the website, which is frankreactions.com. And just put /show and you get the podcast episodes.
All right.
Awesome. Very cool.
And if anyone wants to connect directly with me, they can do it. Just email Tema at frankreactions.com or on Twitter at TemaFrank.
Beautiful. Perfect. Well, that was awesome. You can stay. We're going to wrap up if you want, or you can go if you need to. For our listeners, we hope you enjoyed hearing from Tema today. And then you're leaving with some things to think about. Folks, you have something here that hardly anyone in our niche gets, and that is solid information about boomer market, information that's going to move the needle in your business from people that own their own companies. That's why we do Owners Chat. So take it to heart, mull it over, learn from it, and then last of all, don't make those books you buy doorstops, you guys. Implementation, okay? Act on it. And you'll be somewhere tomorrow that you weren't today. Keep doing it, and you'll have a lot to look back on, and you'll be proud of yourself. So thanks for listening. Until next time, be well, be bold, and boom your bottom line.